Have you ever been in the midst of a conversation with someone and you say something that requires a response only to hear crickets? And then you're like, hello? Did you hear what I said? And they say something or another, asking you to repeat yourself. Frustrated, you reply,
You're not listening.
today we're talking about the difference between hearing and listening. My name is Jennifer Mitchell Early. I help individuals and teams achieve organizational and personal success. And this is Leadership Matters. Okay, real talk. This happens to me with my mother. More than you can imagine. OMG, she watches my channel, so I know that I'm going to hear about this. In her defense, she attempts to multitask, especially when we're on the phone, answering my father's incessant questions, reading every byline, pop-up and email message, and catching any breaking news on MSNBC. The problem is she's not as good at multitasking as she thinks she is. If you've ever talked to someone like my mother, a friend with her head stuck in her cell phone, a boyfriend glued to a sports game, or worse, in the middle of playing a game, then you found yourself saying the same thing in curt exasperation, "You're not listening to me," which is often met with the universal response, "I hear you." So let's talk about the difference between hearing and listening. The definition of hearing has more to do with the physiological act of hearing sounds than it does with making sense and connecting with the person who's talking to you. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines hearing as the process, function, or power of perceiving sound, specifically the special sense by which noises and tones are received as stimuli. In the previously mentioned case of my mom multitasking while we're speaking on the phone, as I talk, sound waves generated by my voice enter her inner ear, causing her eardrum to vibrate. Those vibrations travel along acoustic nerves to her brain, which interprets them as my words and voice tone, which is known as hearing. So when she says she heard me, she's telling the truth. She's able to receive or hear. The problem is that she did not attune or pay attention to what I said. Listening is a complex 5-step process. It involves receiving, attending to, understanding, responding to, and recalling sounds and visual images. Together, seeing and hearing constitute receiving, the first step in the listening process. Receiving is critical to listening. You can't listen if you don't see or hear the other person. Unfortunately, our ability to receive is often hampered by noise pollution, sound in the surrounding environment that obscures or distracts our attention from auditory input. You can enhance your ability to receive and improve your listening as a result by becoming aware of noise pollution and adjusting your interactions accordingly. Attending, the second step in the listening process, involves devoting attention to the information you've received. If you don't attend to information, you can't go on to interpret and understand it or respond to it. The extent to which you attend to receive information is determined largely by salience, the degree to which it seems especially noticeable and significant. We have limited control over salience. Whether people communicate in stimulating, unexpected, or important ways is largely determined by them, not us. However, we have control over our level of attention. To improve your attention, consider trying 2 things: limiting your multitasking and elevating your attention. Memory plays an essential role in the third stage of listening, understanding. Understanding involves interpreting the meaning of another person's communication by comparing newly received information against our past knowledge. Sometimes, when I have a million things going on at once, I don't always remember something that my daughter has previously said to me. New information is housed in my short-term memory, the part of my mind that temporarily houses information while I seek to understand its meaning. However, when information isn't stored in my short-term or long-term memory, I'm unable to create understanding in order to respond. I guess the same could be true for my mom. Maybe I should cut her some slack. Responding. Communicating your attention and understanding is the fourth stage of the listening process. When you actively listen, you do more than simply attend and understand. You also convey your attention and understanding to others by clearly and constructively responding through positive feedback, paraphrasing, and clarifying. The fifth stage of listening is recalling, remembering information after you've received, attended to, understood, and responded to it. As researchers L. Todd Thomas and Timothy Levine noted, recalling is a crucial part of the listening process because we judge the effectiveness of listening based on our ability to accurately recall information after we've listened to it. For example, folks that know my mom know that she can sleep anywhere, anytime. My mom is notorious for falling asleep in my face in the middle of a conversation as I'm talking to her. To prove that she's still listening after I've accused her of not listening, she recites back everything that I just said, word for word. Your ability to recall accurately varies depending on the situation. Recall accuracy is high when only simple memorization is involved. But when we're involved in more complicated activities, recall activity plummets. In cases where we're receiving lots of information, the likelihood of perceptual and recall errors increases. For example, during negative and unpleasant interactions such as conflicts, we tend to recall our own behavior as positive and constructive and the behaviors of others as comparatively negative, regardless of what actually happened. One way that you can increase your recall accuracy is through the use of mnemonics, devices that aid memory. We often think of listening as a passive activity, something that just happens, but listening is arguably our most powerful communication skill in terms of how much we gain from it and depend on it. Listening actively requires us to focus attention, train memory, adapt listening styles, and avoid incompetent listening. So there's a difference between hearing and listening. Have a great week.